And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from you over the years is that technology and innovation are critical elements for social change.
It's holding us back as a people are things that you need innovators and mark that word builders to actually help unlock. We rely on government, civil society organizations to fix our problems. But a lot of the challenges that we have are actually challenges that require builders. A revolution that we're not documenting, if there's any, I don't think there's a better way to describe it. I think in 10 years, we've been able to mainstream the role of innovation in development in Nigeria. That's one thing we've been able to do. In just under 10 years, we've been able to demonstrate the power that technology has to truly be able to help leapfrog development in the country. Already we've proven that your dreams are valid from Nigeria. We've proven that Nigerians can build technology businesses in Nigeria to significant problems. I think what we now need to do is to scale that and recognize that, again, there's no competitive Nigerian economy without a very vibrant, well-funded tech ecosystem.
How do you see us as innovators and entrepreneurs becoming more aware of our role in nation building?
I think there are two sides to that question. There's the side of nation building, but there's also the bit where we all ignore, and this is not just for Nigerians. The easiest analogy to use is to take the fact that we now live in a connected world, right? Our world is connected. And for any technologies in the room, the best way to think of a connected world will be through the science of network, right? And the way you actually measure the value of a network is by how many nodes that are connected to that network and the value that each node brings into the network. Until we're able to empower the different nodes, which are countries that are part of the network that we call a connected world today, to be able to contribute their bit to development and value creation. So we become a lot more resilient if we can actually strengthen. And those who, I can see Larry in the room, so you understand network. Those who study network will tell you this. Yeah, the network becomes really strong if you build anti-fragility into it. If you ensure that the different nodes on their own are strong. Because all those nodes, they also contribute weaknesses to the network itself. So for me, that's the idea of being nationalistic. And there's so much that we have to offer the world, so much. Whether you think of it in agriculture, one thing we're not talking about, when you think of the world, in Africa generally, 70% of our population, over 1.4 billion people, are young people under the age of 30. In Nigeria, that's 60% of our population are under the age of 25. There are so many countries in the world with aging population that are not giving birth to more people. So who's going to power the world? The world is going to require workforce. If we don't empower these young people to be able to support and contribute to the world, not only are we throwing opportunities away locally, but we're also not helping the world to heal. But my take is that Nigeria will never be a destination for fund domiciliation if we actually don't face the challenges. It's about ensuring that we use the talents, the God-given resources that we have locally to build our people up, but also contribute to the development of the world as well.
I mean, one of the things I've learned from you over the years, I have a huge bias for local. One of the points of learnings I've had over the years is how nationalistic, and I don't mean that in a bad way, you are about African tech. How do you see that evolving over the next 10 years? How do you see us as innovators and entrepreneurs becoming more aware of our role in nation building?
I think there are two sides to that question. There's the side of nation building, but there's also the bit where we all ignore, and this is not just for Nigerians. The analogy to use is to take the fact that we now live in a connected world, right? Our world is connected. And for any technologies in the room, the best way to think of a connected world will be through the science of network, right? And the way you actually measure the value of a network is by how many nodes that are connected to that network and the value that each node brings into the network. So our world is actually not optimizing for what we can do as a people. If you think of all of us as one, regardless of your color, which country you come from, until we're able to empower the different nodes, which are countries that are part of the network that we call a connected world today, to be able to contribute their bit to development and value creation, right? Where if we take, for instance, there's the Russia-Ukraine challenge, which is impacting so many sectors, including the food security challenge that we face in the world today, significantly, right? Because we all rely on so many things coming out of Ukraine, including grains. But you have a country like Nigeria that has significant opportunity to actually contribute to that. Why should a challenge in that corner imply significant challenge for the entire world if we're truly a network that is deeply connected? So we become a lot more resilient if we can actually strengthen. And those who, I can see Larry in the room, so you understand network. Those who study network will tell you this. The network becomes really strong if you build anti-fragility into it. If you ensure that the different nodes on their own are strong, because all those nodes, they also contribute weaknesses to the network itself. So for me, that's the idea of being nationalistic. It's not just being nationalistic because, I have dual citizenship, so, and I'm loyal to any of these countries because I believe that there are significant countries that are part of the world, right? So for me, I think it's about ensuring that a country like Nigeria, with everything that we have, that we're actually contributing to society. Yeah. And there's so much that we have to offer the world, so much. Whether you think of it in agriculture, one thing we're not talking about, when you think of the world, in Africa generally, 70% of our population, over 1.4 billion people, are young people under the age of 30. In Nigeria, that's 60% of our population are under the age of 25. There are so many countries in the world with aging population that are not giving birth to more people. So who's going to power the world? The world is going to require workforce. So it's not about being nationalistic. So the resources to build workforce exist here. If we don't empower these young people to be able to support and contribute to the world, not only are we throwing opportunities away locally, but we're also not helping the world to heal. Because at every point in time, every country will have what they bring to the table. So for me, I think that's where that nationalistic attitude, that's where it comes from. Where, for instance, you've known for a long time, when I set up the fund at CCO, we domiciled it locally, which is what most of you guys don't do. You domicile your fund abroad. But my take is that Nigeria will never be a destination for fund domiciliation if we actually don't face the challenges. If everyone says it's not a good place for domiciliation, why is it not a good place for domiciliation? Can you go through the pain, and by going through the pain, can you truly then start to build for those challenges that makes it a difficult place for domiciliation? I think so. For me, I think that's where it comes from. It's about ensuring that we use the talents, the God-given resources that we have locally to build our people up, but also contribute to the development of the world as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much. It's just been about 9 months since you assumed this office, and sometimes it feels like it's been 3 years. I have 2 questions. I think, what is the most interesting thing you're learning that isn't obvious to most people outside of public service?
It's things like that. This is what I'm now learning. There's also a lot of resources that is unlocked, because a lot of energy will pull behind such a proclamation. But what I've seen in Nigeria is that the community of builders actually don't have a clue what those proclamations mean. So not only is it hard to access some of these opportunities, but people actually believe that it's impossible to access them. So most of the time, people ignore this proclamation. And the folks who are rent seekers, who are used to, and they have a solid understanding that every time government makes a proclamation like that, there's a massive pool of resources that is unlocked. And it's not only government resources. If I come to the ambassador today and I start talking a lot about agriculture, it's probably going to do something to back me up, because they're in the country to also support the agenda of the government. And he knows that that's one of the few areas that if you put your resources today, even as a partner of the nation, the government of the day will be excited. But most of the builders who can actually help build don't pay attention to things like that. I'm from startup ecosystem. Almost every interview I've done, I've talked about the fact that the president has approved that we should set up a fund to lay fiber optic cable in Nigeria. We're now raising $2 billion to do that. We're already seeing DFIs who are committing to it. I've not seen one person from the community of builders, which are the startup ecosystem where I come from, actually approach me to say, Honorable Minister, what's the opportunity here? How can we help build? We said we're going to put connectivity in all the local government secretariats in Nigeria. I've not seen any startup saying, if you have connectivity in local government secretariats, how can my solution benefit from the connectivity there? Nobody is interested in it. So you almost have to create a movement to spoon-feed people, to explain to people that the barriers we see in engaging government sometimes actually doesn't exist.
And mental.
Because the rent seekers don't go for difficult things. That's also something you need to know. They don't go for difficult things. Rent seekers will not go start a serious farm tomorrow. They're not going to do that. There are better ways they can make money. The guys who will start a serious farm, it's you guys. That's why I've invested the only business I can do as a government official is farming. So I'm now investing in a 250 hectares of farm, which we're throwing a lot of technology into. Not just because I want to make money, but to inspire most of you guys that these are the things, difficult things that we need to be doing. And that's the only way we can move our nation forward. In terms of what I'm prioritizing, which is your second part of your question, I think for me, one thing that has always been clear, and I've always complained about this for the last probably 12 years, that the biggest opportunity that every minister that has been in my position is missed is talent. Because Nigeria, we have a lot of young people, and it's very clear that there's massive shortage all over the world for technology talents. It's very clear. The technology talent workforce that has moved to Nigeria in the last 10 years is not up to 15,000 people. You guys at Andela need train up to 10,000.
Well, we
actual Andela, not ALC. Don't go ALC.
But in terms of actual employment, I think about 1,000, maybe about 800 people from Nigeria.
But what we've said is based on the work that you've done, Nigerian talents are now extremely attractive to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
So for me, one thing I'm prioritizing is that by the time we're done with this first term in office under the president, the talents, the technology workforce that Nigeria will have will be more than enough to power technology development in Nigeria. And also, Nigeria can become a net exporter of technology talent. That for me, if you follow me on Twitter, every other thing I tweet, I always tweet about this. That for me is something that we must do, right? And the second thing I'm prioritizing is connectivity. Our digital economy cannot thrive if the cost of connectivity is not reasonable, but also ubiquitous as well. It has to be available everywhere you go in the country, not just in Lagos, Abuja, urban areas. Even villages should have access to connectivity. And the case I'm making for that, when you speak to a lot of the technology companies who invest in infrastructure, their investment is often based on what you may call the as-is reality. They have a map that they use, so they will go to a map and show you at night. Those two are very much on top. But the other things we're prioritizing as well is artificial intelligence. Some people find it too futuristic, and I think Nigeria should not be part of it. I don't think so. Every developed country in the world is, permit me to use the word, freaking out about the developments in AI. But the reality is that they don't even have the workforce to power it. So if we don't take advantage of being part of that game, even if it's just to provide the workforce, then we're wasting time. But also, I don't see a situation where someone like me will be made minister, and in 10 years' time, young people will ask me, so what did you do when AI was happening? And I won't be able to give an answer. Because whether you like it or not, in the next probably 2-3 years, it's already happening, but it's going to become more ubiquitous. AI will prompt how you think and what you do. AI will prompt development. And what we'll do in 5-10 years' time is to start to, again, cry about discrimination, most of which is going to be racial, because AI is based on data set. And the current data sets that is feeding AI are coming from countries that are ready or are taking it seriously. So if we don't want that to happen to our people in 5-10 years' time, we have to join the game. We shouldn't be talking about it being futuristic. AI is going to change how we do agriculture, how we do education, how we do healthcare, right? It will raise the level of productivity. The way we do all those things right now, not only will they become inefficient, they'll become obsolete in 2 to 3 years' time. So again, if we're waiting, we won't be able to appropriate these things. In fact, we have better opportunity with AI than developed world, because in the developed world, AI is going to make people lose their jobs. For developing countries, AI is going to help us be more productive with industries and sectors where we're currently weak. Because AI is all about productivity. So again, this is something I'm focusing on. There are a few other technologies as well. But of course, all of these things we cannot do without entrepreneurs. So we have clear plans to support entrepreneurs. And Nigeria will also, in the next 2 to 3 years, start to take trade in technology seriously. Because thanks to you guys, Nigeria is currently rated, when it comes to ECI trade index, we're almost second to the last. Because despite all the big companies they founded, Nigeria is not seen as a tech exporter because they register their companies in Delaware.
We're working on it.
So their trade does not count. Their trade does not count for us. So as a government, whatever we need to do to help them register locally so that the trade can count for Nigeria, we'll also prioritize. Thank you.
I'll tell you, Honorable Minister, this is something that we're working on with all the urgency. No, I can assure you, Itana is going to be launched pretty soon. We're working on it, so this is something that is a priority for us as a community as well. I'm just going to, given your priority, I'm sure international partnerships, I really like the analogy you had about the network and how we need to be able to punch a little bit above its weight. One country that has done a fair amount of punching above its weight is Israel, which is one of the reasons why we're very excited about the partnership here today. What's the best way for global partners to work?
There are a number of ways, and I think we've started seeing this. A lot of what I do, I can put myself out there, my government. You know what people don't do well in Nigeria as well? I've not seen a media house that is written thoroughly about the budgets that I have to do my work. But of course, people want a better country. But one thing we've seen is, because there are well-meaning partners, a lot of the things that we set out to do, we've actually gotten significant support for them from partners. So I don't tend to see resources locally as being the barrier to achieving everything we want to achieve. So I'm extremely excited about what partners bring to the table. But I think the most effective partners we've seen are people who are extremely intentional about looking at their own strengths and some of the things we want to achieve and our ambition, and helping to plug into those. And I also find that communicating openly, I've been using things like white papers when we have projects that we want to do. This is innovative. It's not something I've seen before joining government in Nigeria, but nobody is talking about it, but we know how powerful it's been. Every time we release a white paper on something we want to do, we see a significant partner who will come to us and say, we can back you up with that. When we released the blueprint, for instance, it was extremely instructive. Many partners picked different aspects of it that they would like to support with, and we've been getting a lot done through that approach. And I think for Israel, there's so much. There's so much. I think Ambassador and I met. The unfortunate situation that is going on in the region is probably slowing us down at the minute. But we met and we discussed a number of exciting things that Nigeria can benefit from. It. I think Israel is a fantastic country when you talk about innovation. How a nation like that is been able to truly put itself at the center of innovation, globally. When you think of what Israel has done in cybersecurity, for instance, our intention is all you need to get anything done. Clear intention that we will do this, all right? And we've seen, what that means for Israel as well. So I think there's a number of things that we should be taking advantage of. I've shared this with Ambassador. I think whatever we can do, we need to back the president on this agricultural move because the traditional way is not going to make it happen. I'm extremely excited. I think by the time this president's first term is done, Nigeria should be talking about self-sufficiency in food. But it's not going to happen just because the president has said it and is putting everything. It's going to happen if we all get behind the president. So I think there's so much that is there that we can do. I think the program you're doing here is also extremely exciting. I've been in the startup space for a long time. I know the reason why we've not made progress with hardware is that the ecosystem for hardware doesn't exist. So our people are really smart. They come up with great ideas. But if you can't mass produce your solution, if fabrication is a big issue, most of the ideas don't get to go where they need to go. We've seen a lot of that over the years. And we have to be extremely bullish about how do we create that ecosystem. We think there's a lot we can learn from Israel in terms of how to create that ecosystem for our country. So I'd love to really see how we can quickly accelerate on quite a number of the things that we discussed. Even if you just pick up the Greek one, and you have a few fantastic innovations here as well, that we need to get to the farms so that we can document them and show the entire country what is possible. That's why I've gone into farming. I'm looking to do a documentary on my farming channel just to inspire so many other people. But I think we should do more around that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.